I'm going to introduce Mr. Glen Laville, who is the General Manager of the Water and Sewerage Corporation, the WSC, who's responsible for the daily operations and the strategic planning within the organization. Mr. Laville has more than 25 years' experience in water and sewage sector and led the development and implementation of the corporation's water supply and non-revenue water reduction strategy. He also coordinated the development of Water and Sewerage's strategic action plan, which resulted in the execution of an $81 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank. Any agency who's able to go in to negotiate that kind of loan from the IDB gets kudos from me. So please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Glen Laville, General Manager, comes to present to us now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I always wonder whether it's better to do a presentation before people have eaten, so everybody is hungry and anxious, so they barely listen to what you say, or after they've eaten, when everybody is ready to go to sleep and they hardly listen to what you say. But before I start, I just wanted to recognize, first of all, the executive team and other members of Water and Sewerage who are here, but particularly our staff in the Family Islands. You know, we had a very terrible hurricane a few weeks ago, and a lot of people are still recovering, and our staff in the Family Islands have been doing an excellent job. Within about a week, they had the water supplies back on, and we had support from New Providence going back down there. So I know everybody's stomach is full and they're ready to go to sleep, so I'm going to go through this very quickly. So first of all, what we want to do is to kind of update you on what we've been doing under the IDB program and also tell you about our plans to transform the corporation. So the first thing we had to do when we were looking at transformation is to say, why do we actually exist? And really, the reason that we're here is to provide the Bahamas with a safe, reliable water supply and to do it in a very efficient manner. Now, over the years, we've introduced vision statements, mission statements, and we've reached a point where, is it reality, is it perception, are we achieving it, are we not achieving it? You can see from our statements that we were committed to growth and quality, and that's because we only serve about 55% of the entire population of the Bahamas, and in fact, in New Providence, where the most of our customers are, we're actually below 50% in terms of penetration into the market. So a lot of people are still on private wells. And what we want to do is transform the corporation into a customer-focused organization that enjoys good service and that really listens to what their customers want and make sure that we are operating efficiently. Reality is we haven't been able to really do this over the years. As you can see from our operating performance, our cost recovery is only about 63 to 65%. Now, what that means is that for every dollar we spend, we only get back 65 cents on it. And that has resulted in extreme level of subsidies over the past 10 years. In fact, just for operating subsidies alone, we've gotten $250 million over the past 10 years. And so what we want to do is we want to change this trend into a positive direction. Now, the reason we need to do it is everybody knows what's going on with bond downgrades, reform at BEC, layoffs at BTC, and of course, regulatory reform throughout all of the utility sectors. And what we want to do is we wanted to determine our future rather than having it thrust upon us. There was a very nice letter to the editor in the Tribune, and this was earlier this year in April, and I think it reflects not only our organization, but a lot of organizations, and in fact, society as a whole. And what it said is that we have so trained our people to tune out any and all prescriptions that call for personal responsibility and hard work, that any sustained change will only come by coercion instead of by personal initiative. In other words, whatever we want to do, we have to work towards doing. We can't just sit back and expect it to happen on its own. And again, looking at our history, we've had a terrible history, but what we want to do now is we want to leap forward into the future. We want to redefine our history, and we want to become that organization that is talked about in our mission and our vision. So there were 4 key factors that were responsible for our financial position, namely increased cost of service as we transition from groundwater into desalinated water, and that was done out of necessity in order to meet increasing demands. Our tariffs are lower than the cost of service. Nobody likes to hear about the price of utilities, but the reality is we have not had a tariff increase since 1999. There was decrease in capital expenditure, and as a result, we had all of our subsidies that were coming from government, instead of being focused on capital expenditure in order to improve our assets, we had to put it towards operating costs. And there was non-revenue water or water losses, which was constantly increasing and had reached the point of being unsustainable. What we're trying to achieve is financial and operational sustainability, so our plan looks at how we can achieve those goals. So looking at what the challenges is, it's fairly obvious what the solutions are. We had to decrease water losses. We have to improve our staffing efficiency or staff productivity. We want to increase tariffs, but what we want to do is we want to do that after we have improved our service levels. It is very hard to go to your customer and say, we're going to increase the price, where the only thing they are seeing is a declining quality of service to their homes. And of course, we replaced barging, as you know, at the end of 2011. Other structural issues that we wanted to address was also to upgrade our legal and regulatory framework and also to expand private sector involvement. So we sat down, we negotiated with the Inter-American Development Bank, and we received an $81 million loan focused on all of those issues that I just mentioned. The non-revenue water reduction took the lion's share of the loan at $49 million. We also have some institutional improvements that we want to make, and that includes remote monitoring of our distribution system to increase efficiency, restructuring of the organization, also to improve our staff productivity, introduction of automated meter reading in order to give our customers a better service and improve the level of accuracy for our revenue generation, and also to do a tariff study. In addition to that, we also looked at the sewage sector, and while the sewage sector does not bring in much revenue, it's an environmental disaster waiting to happen. And so we also have $16 million allocated for us to not only do a master plan for New Providence, but also to do a lot of critical infrastructure work that has been neglected over the years because of the lack of revenue in order to achieve it. Another issue we were looking at is also regulatory reform. And one of the things with that is to redo the legislation for the sector so that the corporation becomes only a service provider. Right now, whenever we need tariff increases, we must go to the government, and in addition to that, we serve not only as a service provider, but also as a regulator for the sector. And that is not a very efficient model to continue. So in terms of non-revenue water, we did a 10-year program, 5 years for reduction of non-revenue water, 5 years maintenance. We had specific targets for 2017 and 19, and by the end of the program, we expect to save 10 billion gallons of water. And just to give you an indication of what that means in terms of the production of water, we would save 7 million US gallons of diesel and 33 gigawatt hours of electricity. To put that in perspective, over that 10-year period, that could power 700 homes and 700 vehicles. So in terms of the water loss reduction, we look for a very holistic approach because of our philosophy of moving towards the private sector for efficiency. It's a results-oriented project where the contractor's goals and interests are aligned with the corporation's goal. The more they save, the more they make. The more they save, the more we save also. And so because we have that alignment of the goals of both the contractor and the organization, then we are better able to achieve these goals. This graph just shows you a result that has happened over the past 2 years of implementation. We started implementation in January 2013, and by the end of 2014 and coming into 2015, we've already reduced our water production by 25% in New Providence. So we've gone from supplying 12 million gallons a day to now only supplying 9 million gallons a day, while also getting increased water sales. We've increased sales by 16%, and so while we've reduced our expenses, we've increased our revenue. We expect this trend to continue for the rest of the program. To date, we have saved 1.4 billion gallons of water. In terms of automated meter reading, this is one of the next steps that we're going to take in order to improve efficiencies. We are going to install a fixed network that also has the benefit of being able to read the electricity meters for BEC. And in addition to that, it's able to expand and upgrade as BEC upgrades its infrastructure, which it plans to do. The other benefit of this, this initiative will also be a customer interface. So customers will be able to go online and see what their consumption is, and then they will also be able to get immediate notifications if there are any abnormal consumption patterns. For instance, a lot of people end up with leaks in their house and they don't know until the end of the quarter that they had a leak, and there's limited rebates that we can give. With this system that we are putting in place, you would be able to get an alarm within a day to say that your consumption is abnormal, and therefore you would be able to better deal with any leaks you may have in your house, and of course we would not have the lost revenue from that. It would also result in improved accuracy and just general service to our customers. In terms of organization restructuring, one of the things we want to do is to focus on our core function. We have already developed a new structure which we have begun to implement, and we're also looking at an employee effectiveness program. Now, under that program, what we want to do is to reward employees for doing a good job and to make sure that all of their job descriptions and activities focus towards the organization goal. You want to be able to pull all of your overachievers and move them forward within the organization. In addition to that, our transition strategy also looks at outsourcing. If the private sector can do something that we are doing more efficiently for a lower cost, then that is the route that we want to do. But again, the focus is constantly on cost reduction, reliability, and improved service to our customers. For wastewater, I mentioned we're going to do a wastewater plan and also critical infrastructure within New Providence. We're also going to consolidate some of our facilities in order to reduce costs. In terms of the legal and regulatory framework, we've already formed a regulatory reform committee, and we've already drafted legislation, which is presently with the AG's office. What this legislation seeks to do is to put IRCA in charge of the corporation and the sector from an economic standpoint, and then from a regulatory standpoint for groundwater pollution and also groundwater management. We are going to put all of those responsibilities into the Ministry of Environment. You would have heard recently where the ministry is planning to form the Department of Environmental Protection and Planning, so we are going to piggyback on those efforts. And we hope that this legislation will be introduced very early next year after the electricity reform. So in terms of short-term focus, within the next year, we want to begin our outsourcing functions. We want to implement a performance management system at the corporation, track our performance, and we also want to pursue the regulation implementation so that we can start looking at how we can adjust our tariffs and improve the service to our customers. And that's one thing I want to mention about economic regulation. A lot of people look at it as just being able to get tariff increases. But really, in terms of regulation, what it's looking at, it's focusing on the customer and ensuring that the utility is providing the service levels that it should provide for the cost of service that it wants to charge. So again, what we are doing with our action plan is that we are trying to leap forward to a new WSC. We're trying to get out of the past and how we were defined in the past and to improve our image not only to our customers, but more importantly, improve our service and reliability to our customers. And one thing I'd like to leave you with, this is a nice little film that sort of sums up everything. In this day and age, a lot of people talk about change, but people don't really want to change. They don't like where they are, but they're not willing to move forward. And sometimes you reach a point where you have no choice but to move, as this will show you. I have to apologize for the technical difficulty. It really sounds good when you hear it. But I think did everybody get to read it? If not, I can sum it up. The ship is heading towards the lighthouse. The lighthouse is telling the ship to veer off. And the captain of the ship is saying, I am the USS biggest warship in the world, and if you don't move, I'm going to crush you. And the lighthouse man is saying, hey, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm the lighthouse. So the point of the movie is that you get to a point where you're going along your course, and there are things in your way. But rather than deviate in order to improve your course, you tend to remain on it. What we are saying is that as the corporation, we have made the decision that we can no longer continue business as usual and that we have to change our course and improve our service and performance with our customers. Thank you very much.